Hello and welcome to the AFL Riverina Football and Netball Show. I'm your host, Hannah Maguire. Now we have some big footy finals to talk about later on in the show, but first, Jason McPherson from AFL House and Matt Kelly from Prime 7 News join us in the studio to talk about their predictions for the RFL Queen Medal. Now fellas, first of all, who do you think is going to win this medal, best in the league?
I think it's going to be very open this year. I think last year obviously we had a three-way tie. I can't see anyone standing out. I think the guys that voted well, polled well last year will poll well again. But yeah, for me, open slather for this one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You could probably throw a blanket over half a dozen, 8, 10 of these blokes that have had super years, through midfielders to forwards, and a couple of backs that have had incredible seasons as well. And 2 or 3 teams that have only lost a handful of games. Coolman lost a single game. Ganmain, I think 2 or 3 losses for the season. You'd expect a lot of their players to be up there with so many wins as a club.
Well, Coolman, they ended up the minor premiers, so obviously a lot of their boys are going to be up there. First of all, Jason, we'll talk about Coolman. Who do you think he was the standout of the year?
Look, I only watched a couple of games of Coolman but all reports, I think if you look last year, Jamie Maddox, tough on-baller inside player, in and under. He's one of those guys that's picking the ball up, handing it back to the umpire. He's in the face of the umpire. So I'd see Jamie is probably one of the guys up there for the Coolman club this year. Yeah,
the defenders don't tend to poll too well, but having watched a fair bit of Coolman, Murray Stevenson has had an outstanding season. The rebound 50 this guy provides out of the back line. I don't think I've seen a game this year where he's actually been beaten by a key forward, so I would expect he'll be right.
And I think he won the club best and fairest too.
Yeah, he did. That shows how highly the club rated his season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Matt, you had a bit to do with the Ganmain side. You watched most of their games. You obviously would have a standout player for this side.
Yeah, look, they've got a few. I mean, Cole Hagen, Curtis Steele, Jacob Olsen's, big ruckman's had a huge year. I just don't think you can go past the coach, Jaden Kotzer. He's an inside midfielder who just racks up the footy every week. I mean, we're talking about a guy who gets 30 possessions a game. And to make things even better, he kicks goals. And the umps tend to notice the goal-kicking midfielders as well.
And he's a nice guy on the footy field too. He's a gentleman. He's not one to bag the umpires. And, obviously captain coach, he's the one shaking the hand of the umpire at the start of the game. Look, the only thing I have with Kotzer is his teammates taking votes away. You've probably got the number 1 ruckman in the state, being Jacob Olsen. And you've got a guy on the wing in Curtis Steele who's played every game this year who can run and carry with the ball and, is flashy. So that was my only hesitation with Kotzer. But yeah, I think you're spot on, mate, with probably Kotzer being number 1 pick for the Ganmain club.
Jason, you work with Mark Geppert, who plays for Colin Gully, so obviously you guys would talk a bit about who's who in that club. Who are your thoughts here?
Yeah, bit like the defenders, forwards don't normally poll that well, and Gepp will be the first person to tell me that. But look, I think Brad Aiken's he's had an outstanding year. I think he's kicked 40 plus goals as an on-baller, so that's got to tell you something. And the other guy, Chris Gordon, bit Curtis Steele, like outside player, run and carry, silky skills, and from what I've watched and read and seen, he has probably had a better year than last year. So yeah, he's going to go a long way, but a bit like the Ganmain boys, he's probably taking votes away from each other. Geppert's kicked 98, not a bad effort, Yeah,
if Geppert's not up there somewhere with 98 goals, you'd be very surprised. I think the other thing that's underrated too is the fact that Brad Aitken, the goal assists, he's kicked plenty himself this year, but he just always seems to set somebody else up. And the weekend against Ganmain in the finals is a perfect example of that too.
Yeah.
Wagga Tigers, you can't really go past Matt Rava.
Yeah, absolutely outstanding. He'd be my number 1 pick for the club at Tigers. He's been a real leader there. He's taken the young guys under his wing at Wagga Tigers, and yeah, I think Matt will probably in the top 5 finish for me. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd said before, goal-kicking midfielders. Dime a dozen. Here's another one who just, I think, kicked one from outside 50, was in the report on the news last night. Just a guy who just racks it up. Really clean user of the footy. I'll mention two more names too. The first one, John Anstey, centre half back. Can't count the number of times he's actually cut off attacking plays from the opposition. His marks from opposition kicks this year would be probably number one in the competition. And Sean Flanagan, he reminds me a lot of Trent Cotchin. Different league, I know. But just the way that he moves in terms of suburban footy, here's a guy whose agility is just something that really stands out, rarely tackled. Another huge game from him in the finals on the weekend. I think he'll poll pretty well as well.
Yeah, I think Anstey, he's probably an unsung hero there. He's obviously got Simpson and Noonan down back that make him probably look all right as well. So, and they've got a lot of young guns, you know, Dougal Howard, Connor Byrne made his debut on the weekend as a 15-year-old. So they've got some young guns coming through, but yeah, Matt Rava for me.
Yep.
Okay, what about Mengo?
Yeah, up and down. Mengo, a bit similar to Tigers, young list coming through. Andrew Dickens for me probably. Like across the board, probably haven't been enough talent to go through and be a standout. Real even, list. And yeah, but I think Andrew Dickens, key positional player. I think he'll poll okay.
Yeah, I like Isaac Dam. I think he's a very clever player, this guy. Has some nice goal sense too. Kicked a couple of nice goals. I think he kicked 4 on the weekend. Yep. One might have even been a soccer goal as well. So look, he does some things during a game that you really notice. So even in some of the games he may not have had a lot of the footy, he always bobs up and does a couple of nice things. I think he'll probably poll pretty well as well.
Okay, we'll head out to Leeton. Do you reckon anyone from Leeton would be within a chance, or?
Oh, you're always a chance. For me, they probably haven't won enough games. But Ben Curley, probably, he's thereabouts. Bryce O'Grady's a class act. So, yeah, they'd probably be my two pick for the Leeton club.
Yeah, throw in Brad Boots, Callum Garvey. There's probably 3 or 4 guys there you'd expect will poll games, particularly in the games they win. They have some really good wins throughout the year. So, yeah, those 3 or 4 boys.
Yeah. What about Griffith? I mean, they're probably on a sort of similar scale to Leeton in the polling department.
Yeah, obviously, captain coach like Kotzer, Guy Orton leads in by example, and I think Guy would agree that he probably hasn't had as good a year as he did last year, but he's a strong, tough on baller, stands out, and he'd be the other one. Maybe Mick Duncan, opportunist, class act, clever footballer.
Yeah, can't add any more to that. Duncan and Orton would be the two for me as well.
All right, Narandra, the reigning premiers.
Yeah, Jim Rice for me, just obviously got the medal for the representative footy, stand out, but a bit similar to Leeton, and probably Turvey Park will go into them next, but just haven't won enough games for me.
Yeah, again, I can't really add much more to that. Rice, just the dominant player on the ground in the rep game and took that form into the, played with that form early in the season, then took it into the back half of the season. I've got to say, having watched Narandra a couple of times, Jay Kickett was one that really took me eye. In a couple of games where the Narandra boys, got beaten by 10 goals plus, here's a guy that was still getting 30 plus possessions through the midfield and even pushing down back to help their young defenders out. So I think Jay might sneak in a couple of votes in a few games. Okay,
and lastly, we'll talk about Turvey Park.
Yeah, Billy Serrato for me probably hasn't played enough games, but yeah, just haven't had the best year. Improved from last year. Young list again, but yeah, no one for me.
Yeah, look, Chris Serrato's the one I think that'll probably poll the most votes for the Doggies. Evan Smith, I think, as well, probably in the ruck. And there was a couple of games there where he took a couple of nice speckies, so that might help his chances to poll a few votes as well.
All right, well, we'll need your 3, 2, 1s.
Well, you go, Kel. I'll copy you.
I think you probably go with the trend here, and most medals tend to stick with the midfielders. And like you said before, having watched a fair bit of your Coolamans, your Colin Gullies, your Tigers and your Ganmains, I think the coach of Ganmain just stands out as probably the guy who's most consistent across the season. Like I said, goal kicker, and he's also a really nice user of the ball. I think he's one thing that stands out with him. He just hits targets all day long. I think he'll win the medal. I think it will be very close. I've actually put Matt Rava in for second. Similar type, just racks them up both inside and outside and kicks goals. Been one of the main reasons why the Tigers have gone so well this season. I've actually thrown in Murray Stevenson for third. I'm biased towards the defenders. I think they should poll better than what they do in most medal counts across the country. And like I said before, he's a guy who hasn't been beaten all season, so surely has to be up there. Macca.
Yeah, Matt Rava for me. Wagga Tigers. Just I think when I look at picking winners, that 4th, 5th position on the ladder, young kids coming through that may provide some inconsistency. Whereas Matt, I think he's been consistent week in, week out. I think he's my pick. I'm going to go for Chris Gordon, flashy type from Collingully.
Yeah.
I think he will be thereabouts. And yeah, I think someone from Gairmain, I think it might be big Jacob Olsen in the ruck for 3rd for me.
You can't miss him, he's that big.
Yeah, so super athlete. And so fingers crossed, see who wins. And yeah.
All right, well, there you have it. You'll have to wait to find out. Jason's back in the studio to talk all things footy finals. Now we'll start off with the Farah League, Jason. We've got the qualifying, or the preliminary final rather, with the Rock and the Northern Jets. Now the Northern Jets had a smashing last quarter on the weekend against Mara and knocked them out of their finals hopes. Who do you think's going to win here?
I think it's going to be a really tough choice here. I think the Jets, if I was Mick Mazzocchi and coaching the Rock, I would be concerned about the Jets last quarter. Obviously, speed and fitness being coming into finals time with the weather being a bit warmer. I suppose the key to the Rock is John Hoey's missing for the Jets. The Jets haven't beaten the Rock this year, so that's obviously a key, mentally. But I can see the Rock getting over the top of the Jets. I just think they're too bigger bodies, too much experience, and I'll back the Rock to win and then progress and play, obviously, Temora in the grand final in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I mean, the Rock's game against Temora last week wasn't bad at all either.
No, absolutely. And Temora probably played the best they've done this year and still got room for improvement. So I don't think, the Rock should be disappointed with their effort. It's just that's the competition this year, very even. Mara didn't play in the last quarter and it cost them, their season really. So, yeah, Jets, they've got nothing to lose as well. A couple of injuries, bad timing with injuries, but that's football.
All right, so you're going to go the Rock?
I'll back the Rock in, yep. Rock Temora grand final for the Farah League this year.
As a former Jets player, I'm going to go for the Jets.
Yeah, very good.
We'll move on to the Riverina League and the second semi-final that'll be played in Narrandera on the Saturday, and it's against Coolum against Collingully. Now Collingully had a cracker game, didn't they, last weekend?
Yeah, I've spoken to players for both sides. Obviously, I've got a brother playing at Gairmain, and he just said they were outplayed, outsmarted, outran, and Gairmain just didn't turn up on the day. Gully played probably the best they've done all year, and I think Shane Lennon would agree with that. I think being a 4:30 twilight game, a bit of history there with the RFL, Saturday night under lights at the Narrandera Sports Ground. So I think, look, Gully have got nothing to lose again. They've got a free hit. Really, if they lose, they've still got a second chance. Coolum week off, is it going to benefit? I think it will. I think Coolum have got a really even spread of talent across the board, and I think their midfield will be the key, the battle of the midfield. I think if you look forward, Gully have got Aiken and Geppert, and then across the back line they're both pretty even. So, look, big Narrandera Sports Ground, week off. I think I'll back Coolum in, and I think the reason I'll do that is because of a couple of injuries in their ruck department. We've got Josh Measelbeck, from what all reports, knee, maybe the season, hopefully not, and obviously Nathan Fuller as well with his shoulder. So without ruckman in September can be costly, and I think Coolum with the week off will be a bit fresher, and I think they'll go on and advance straight to the grand final.
Okay. In this first semi-final at Robinson Oval, we've got Gairmain versus Tigers. Now, do you think it'll be an advantage for the Tigers playing on their home ground? Absolutely.
Yeah. Since the redevelopment, I think a lot of players and coaches have underestimated how big Robinson Oval is now. It's quite a large ground with open space, and with the young players that Tiger have, and Dougal Howard, Connor Byrne, Sean Flanagan, these guys have carried the ball really well, and with the open space at Robinson Oval, I think that'll play into their hands. So, Gairmain, they've got to restock, think about it. It's their last hit. The season's over if they don't win.
Yeah, I mean, their performance last week was pretty much disgraceful compared to how they have been playing and how they had beaten Coolum in the week before.
Yeah, I know that they're 3 losses for the year, and to get beaten by that much, it would have hurt, and that's probably what Tigers didn't want to see. From all reports, they carried 2 or 3 players in that hadn't had a lot of game time, but they've got those minutes under their belt now that will put them in better stead come this week. Look, I think the Tigers half-back line, I think you win premierships off the half-back line, and if you look at Wagga Tigers half-back line, it's very strong, and that's where I worry about Gairmain with their goal-kicking power. They've got great on-ballers. Their back line's probably been the most improved throughout the league this year. So for that reason, I'm going to be crucified being a Gairmain boy, and I'm going to back Tigers to knock over the Lions on Sunday.
Fair enough. We'll see. We'll have to see what happens. It all gets underway on Sunday at 2:30 at Robinson Oval. Well, that's unfortunately all we've got time for today. So make sure you go out there and support your team. And we'll be back again with all the results and previews for next week in the Footy Show at aflriverina.com.au. We'll see you then.